Daniel Webster said, and he would know, there are men in all ages who mean to exercise power usefully, but they mean to exercise it. They mean to govern well, but they mean to govern. They promise to be kind masters, but they mean to be masters. We need to understand what government is made of and its tendencies. Richard Henry Lee said, we are not only to guard against what men will do, but also what they may do. Teach your representative there's one question he must answer before he votes for any piece of legislation. This is step number 1 to vote for any piece of legislation. Do I want the most evil person in the world to have the power that I'm about to create for government? Because if you don't want Mussolini, Adolf Hitler, or Satan himself to have control of that power, then you have no business making that a power vested in government. Because you might like your guy today, but tomorrow, who knows what you'll get. Pay attention to local offices. Can I tell you, the federal government will not fix itself, and at this point in time, I do not have any faith whatsoever that you have any power over federal government anymore. Period. If the world were perfect according to me, you would completely ignore your federal elections for the next 6 years. Not another vote cast, not another dime spent, not a minute campaigning for a federal candidate. And you would take those 6 years and you would concentrate on getting a constitutionally minded school board. You have a constitutionally minded school board, you will have no federal intrusion in your schools. There'll be no Common Core, there'll be no federal food programs, there'll be nothing like that. You can then get a constitutionally minded city council and county commission, and you won't care about Agenda 21. Do you know, even though it's down on the list, I think I might just move it up, the most important thing you can do is get a constitutional sheriff? If you have a constitutional sheriff, your sheriff understands that the state, neither the state nor the federal government has any authority in his county unless he gives permission. That's the way your sheriff works. Your sheriff has the authority to tell any federal agency you have no power here. And I will say he has a duty to do so when those federal agencies do not constitutionally exist. The EPA, the FDA, the IRS, the Bureau of Land Management, the Forestry Service, the Department of Interior, the Department of Homeland Security. Is that Foreign Affairs, Homeland Security? No, by its very name, it's a homeland thing. The FBI. All of these agencies exist outside the Constitution, which means they are exercising a power stolen from the states. They're driving around in our car and we're looking at them, funding them. How crazy is that? They've stolen the car from them and we're giving them the gas money.
There you go.
If you have a constitutional sheriff, that stops in your county today. If you have a constitutionally minded state government, the federal government is under control. Period. Because that's how that works. Now, I've written a book called Sovereign Duty. And I have copies here available for you today. This book teaches the state power over the federal government. Not from my opinion, but from the words of the framers themselves. As a matter of fact, the back part of this book is nothing but citations, because every quote and every document cited is cited back to its original source text. See, I'm not here to teach you, I'm here to recruit you. I want to give you the tools so that you can be the teachers and the defenders and the advocates. But we can't do that as long as we remain ignorant. And if you want control of this federal government, then you have to understand what is the duty of the state and local governments, and that's what this book tells you. Not from my perspective, but those who wrote it. Here is the most important thing that I think we can do in this today's day and age beyond establishing constitutional governments and will be necessary to establishing constitutional government. We must stop believing in the lesser of two evils paradigm. If you vote the lesser of two evils, you're guaranteed to always get evil. And I don't believe it's necessary. I believe because we have been brainwashed into a political duopoly, into believing that this bad guy's better than that bad guy because he wears my letter and my color, that I should vote for him instead. How many of you people, how many here believe that there are people in Washington, D.C. who are destroying the Constitution because they don't know any better? How many of you believe there are people in Washington, D.C. destroying the Constitution because they're wicked, power-hungry, and selfish? Let me ask you this question. At the end of the day, what difference does it make? Whether it's ignorance or evil intent, the Constitution is destroyed. And evil is evil. And we've been brainwashed into believing that good is no longer electable. Because I believe we always have a good candidate. We just don't believe they're electable anymore. And what are we saying? Good people are not electable in America?